Well, SRAM are the first out of the gates with offering a 12-speed wireless electronic group set, and it really puts them out front now of Campagnolo and Shimano, because what they're competing with now is the 105 mechanical and the Chorus mechanical. Even though Campagnolo did offer a Chorus electronic group set some years ago, that has now been discontinued. So it's now the catch-up for the other two groups. And we're also even waiting for Shimano to bring out a 12-speed, which the other two group sets have had for some time. But there is some drawbacks, and let's roll that intro and let's have a discussion about this mid-tier group set that is now leader of the pack, as it seems on paper. Now, as people may not aware, with the new disc brake bikes, and this rival actual group set is only available in the disc brake format, they are quite heavier. The group sets have jumped up quite considerably in weight. And unfortunately for these lower tier group sets with electronic and hydraulic braking, the weights are really quite considerable. And this actual group set weighs in at 3.2 kilos, which is, geez, it's almost half of the UCI minimum weight limit. So it's quite considerable. And the other problem that you're going to have with this group set is that it's going to be fitted to bikes that are going to be mid-tier bikes. So you're probably not going to have that lighter wheels, and also components like seats and handlebars and so forth are not going to be that light. And the frames, even though they may be a little bit heavier and there may be only 102 grams in it, it's all adding up. And we could be looking at bikes that are pushing high 8 or 9 kilos as a complete bike. Now, if we actually look at the Shimano and actually the Chorus, we've actually got the Shimano sitting at about 500 grams lighter, and we've got the Chorus sitting at about 700 grams lighter. So even though they're not electronic, you're really, getting a much lighter group set, and you're just that little bit ahead on the weight market. So even though you might have that really nice electronic shifting, which is really nice to see, because a lot of people really like the electronic group sets, you're really chasing the weight. And I know people argue, what's a kilo? What's half a kilo? I go to the toilet and I can lose that much weight, and I'm not that slim anyway. They put all those arguments forward. But what a lot of people don't realize is that when you ride a bike that's like, 1 kilo or 1.5 kilos lighter, you actually really feel it. The bike just feels like you can throw it around in the corners more. It just feels a little bit more nimble. It's not just about the overall weight of you. It's about flicking that bike around and making it change direction quicker. And that's what I found. The lighter bikes just feel a little bit more nimble. They just feel like you've got something a little bit lighter underneath you. Maybe it's just a feeling thing, but it definitely is something that you do notice when you're riding these bikes. Now, this rival system is pretty close to the Force and Red etap systems. It has the exact same type of communication, electronic communication, exactly the same motors. The batteries are all interchangeable. So if you're actually buying this as a second bike and you already had etap, you can just interchange the batteries, you can use the same chargers, so forth. So that's really good that SRAM's done that, and they've not made something like a special item like a lot of manufacturers do, where you go, oh, now I've got to buy a new charger, and I've got to have different batteries and so forth. So across the board, if you're a SRAM rider, this is a really good thing to hear, because you may actually want to actually have a second bike or a rain bike or whatever, or a bike for your missus or whatever, and all those batteries can go into the same charger and they can all be charged up. So that's a really good thing that they've done. One of the things that they've actually left off the group set is the thing for the satellite shifters that you can have where you plug in. But the advantage to it is that they've actually made the hydraulic heads a little bit smaller. And I actually think that looks a lot better on the bike. Those big chunky hydraulic, reservoirs, they look a little bit ugly. And the other thing that they've tuned down is also the clutch mechanism. They use a hydraulic mechanism, and now they're using a spring mechanism. Now, if you go to some of the other brands like Shimano and Campagnolo, they actually don't use these clutches. And I think the reason why that they're having to use this clutch is because of this 10-speed cog that they're using. Now, I know why they've used this setup. It's because they've brought it across from the mountain bike world, and it also works well for their one bys. But I'm not a big fan of these 10-speed cog, should I say, because the what it actually does is it creates extra wear, and you actually have very little efficiency when you have these smaller cogs, which SRAM have gone to across the board. They've got smaller front rings, they've got smaller back rings, and you've got this little tiny 10-speed cog, and even 11-speed cogs aren't that efficient. So what actually happens is the chain's only engaging on that cog maybe at 2 cogs when you're in that 10-speed. Now, you know, yeah, people might say it's a little bit lighter, but the amount of efficiency you lose is huge, you know, if they're talking about marginal gains. And unfortunately, the rival has this same system. And I made a video some time ago when the first AXS came out about these smaller chain rings. I'm not too sure if this rival system has the same crank setup and the rings are built into the actual crank. It does look like, from looking at the pictures, that they may be able to be changed. And if that's the case, that's actually a good thing, because then you don't have to throw away the whole crank. And the other good thing is that SRAM have integrated their actual quark power meters into the system, so you can very easily put a power meter on it, either a dual-sided or a single-sided, for a very reasonable cost. So they've really thought of all of that side of it. But the problem is the weight. And I think in this middle tier group set, this is really unfortunate, because the group set's going to be heavier, and when you buy a bike in that sort of $2,000 to $4,000 price range, you know, you usually get pretty cheap heavy wheels, and you know, you get heavier seats. You might actually have, you know, heavy handlebars and stem, and all these little things add up, so your bike becomes quite heavy. Now, if you go to something like the 12-speed chorus, which is still 12-speed. I mean, Shimano will be bringing out imminently, any moment now, a 12-speed. I don't know if we'll be at the 105 level, but you know, we can't really compare that probably at this point in time, but Shimano will actually have 12 speeds very soon. And then we have the chorus 12-speed. Now, I run the Record Campagnolo, and the actual performance of these mechanical Campagnolo 12 speeds are really brilliant. And, you know, I personally would go for the chorus. And it's also the lightest of the 3 currently. So this is actually on the disc. I'm comparing disc to disc, not rim to disc. If you go for the rim ones, they're even lighter. You can actually get, I think, pretty close to 2 kilos with the rim brake. The Shimano, I think, 2.1. And the chorus is around about the same, 2,000. So if you go rim, you can actually even get less weight out of them. But the problem is actually finding a new bike that actually is a rim brake frame, which is pretty hard at the moment. They're becoming like hen's teeth. But anyway, guys, that's really it. It'll be nice to see when this thing starts to come and turn out on bikes. It's a pretty nice looking group set, I would say that. Aesthetically, it really looks neat, and it looks expensive. It is a little bit dearer, obviously, than the other brands, because they're mechanical. But apart from the weight, I think that this could be actually a good thing. It might actually push the other manufacturers to offer electronic group sets at lower prices. So on the whole scheme of things, this is a great move by SRAM, and I think us, the consumers, are going to have a bit of a win out of it. Well, anyway, guys, thanks for watching the video. And remember, if you want to support the channel, to actually like and subscribe. And I'll see you next vid, guys. Cheers.